Good morning, Angelique.
Morning. How you doing, Jessica?
I'm good.
Good.
It happens that no one is in my house today, so I have the internet all to myself.
Hey. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I got that. I am gonna do. Was able. For one, that was a great presentation. That was like a real collegiate level crash course on life as we know it on these streets. So I thought she did a really great job. So I think the fun part is a great segue for Courtney and I to really hone in a little bit more, you know, from the community aspect. I was totally, like professor level. Let's get everybody on the same topic. It was a great overview of everything. I learned a lot. It's really good. So,
y'all are in it right now. Have you started your presentation?
what happened?
All the attendees are listening keenly to all three of you now.
Oh, okay.
But I love it. I love it. And your lipstick looks great. So
thank you. Hey,
whenever you're ready.
Okay, let me get the presentation up. That was dope.
And I'll start with introductions.
Are y'all good?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Love it.
So good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for being here in session 1 today. What safe street design looks like will run till 12:10. I'm Jessica Weinberg. I'm the Trails Coordinator for Milwaukee County Parks. I'm a white woman wearing a blue shirt. I just wanted to give a small reminder for the chat. Check who your audience is. I think you have the option to either chat with just the panelists or with the whole group. Just try to talk to who you want to talk to. We want to hear as much from everyone as we can. We hope this session inspires and educates each attendee on what safe streets can really look like and how to make them happen. When we all act together, we really can make a large collective impact. And now working at the county, I really understand how much complaints and citizen input really does make an impact. And I know you might feel that every time you have a concern, it might not get addressed, but I will guarantee that concern will not get addressed if you don't speak up. So I'm just excited to have 2 really wonderful speakers and leaders here today. One homegrown, one from Chicago, to give us some different perspectives on how to help shape the built environment and what the options really are. So we have Angelique Sharp. She's currently serving as the Villard Avenue Business Improvement District leader here in Milwaukee. Villard Avenue is a Main Street corridor located on the north side of Milwaukee. I highly recommend visiting the library. And Courtney Cobbs, co-founder and writer at Better Street Chicago. Thank you guys both so much for being here, and I will let you take it away with your wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm glad to be here with you all this morning. Thanks to everyone. Shout outs to Jill, our interpreter. We appreciate you. So basically, we want to get right to it. We are members of our community that live and work in our respective communities, and we want to take our streets back to the people. And so we believe that Anastasia's presentation is a great segue for us to just kind of hone in a little bit more. And so I just want to give a credit to bikemore.net for this wonderful photo to jump off our presentation. So first and foremost, how we advocate. I'm gonna let Courtney go first, and then I'll follow up.
Hi, my name is Courtney Cobbs. I am really excited and honored to be here today. I am the part-time editor for Streets Blog Chicago. Streets Blog is a series, or rather I should say a network of cities where we highlight sustainable transportation issues. So whether it's equitable transit-oriented development, a new bike lane proposal, land use issues, that sort of thing, Streets Blog Chicago covers it. I do a lot of online advocacy as well, online petitions and email campaigns with Better Street Chicago which I co-founded with 4 other individuals. I also do some one-on-one meetings with elected officials or their staff. And Better Street Chicago has plans for in-person engagement with the public, going out and talking to people. What kind of bike infrastructure would get you on a bike? What do you want your streets to look like? Just having those conversations with people.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney, for your work, your good work. Angelique Sharp, like Jessica said, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My full-time day-to-day job is to really carry out an annual operating plan where we specialize in community visioning. So we like to include our entire community, the stakeholders, residents, everybody into the planning of our neighborhoods. That way it can be equitable. And so some of my duties include, but are not limited to, design, physical aesthetics of the street, from buildings to the actual streets, economic vitality as far as attracting new capital to our business district, public safety for pedestrians, vehicles, businesses, and also district promotion. So it's important for us to make sure that we're promoting our district as the center of our community's economic activities. And we work very, very closely with the City of Milwaukee's departments, from the Department of City Development, Neighborhood Services, Public Works, to really advocate for equitable distribution of resources so we can revitalize and restore our neighborhoods that have had to suffer at the expense of making other neighborhoods more affluent. So just to jump right into our presentation, we want to get right into it. Want to talk about the existing conditions of our streets. And so I'll start off. This is an aerial view of my business district, our neighborhood. And what you can see here is literally really hardly any infrastructure. The streets are almost crumbled. Frankly, embarrassing, but that's part of my job to advocate for more resources. There are no bike lanes on Villa Avenue, as you can see. Hopkins Street does have, this is a cross street on our corridor, you can see bike lanes on that side. And if you look up in the top, like left-hand corner where my cursor is, there's a car. So you can see like the bike lanes are next to the traffic. And so and you can see just like 2 lines for crosswalks at this intersection. Just not really any infrastructure here. So we're really, really organizing to try to get some resources over into this community to make it safer for everyone. And so this is just a little closer photo of the intersection. As you can see, Villa Avenue again, no bike lanes, no curb extensions, street is busted up, 2 lines that are a bit fainted for a crosswalk that we desperately need to get upgraded. So this is the reason why I do the work that I do. Now we're to Chicago, so Courtney, take it away.
So this is a street in my neighborhood of Rogers Park. Rogers Park is on the very north tip of the city, closer to the lake. And it's a very diverse community. It's one of the most racially diverse north side communities. If you're not aware, Chicago is a very racially segregated city. So typically folks that look like me don't live on the north side of the city where you see more white people, but we are here. And this is a street that I take pretty regularly. And this is part of a bicycle greenway. So it's supposed to be a street that is very safe and welcoming for people on bikes. But this stretch in particular is very narrow. Drivers will play chicken with you. I've had people call me all sorts of names. I remember the first day I went out on my e-bike, which reaches 20 miles per hour. and the street has a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. And this guy was just really upset that he was behind me. I was going 20 miles per hour, the speed limit. And it just highlighted to me that speed limit signs are not enough, and that this street really needs more infrastructure to limit the amount of drivers. And I will say residents that live along this street want this as well. They don't want as much car traffic as they currently see. And we're currently kind of in a battle with the city to make that happen as soon as possible. Here is a Lyft vehicle, a rideshare vehicle parked in what is supposed to be a bike lane. This is pretty common. I will say the area of Rogers Park does not have a lot of official bike lanes, and the ones that we do have are often blocked. And I think if the people who had designed it actually lived in the neighborhood, they could have foreseen it. One of the bike lanes is next to an apartment building that has a lot of people moving in and out every month. And so it's not uncommon to see a moving truck at the end or the middle of the month for someone either moving in or moving out. So if you regularly ride a bike in the neighborhood, you kind of know, like, oh, today's the 15th, today's the 30th, there's probably going to be a U-Haul in the bike lane. Unfortunately, this bike lane has you go against traffic, so it can be kind of dangerous. Even with the bike lane there, I've had drivers yell at me like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're going the wrong way. And they didn't even realize that there was a bike lane, like literally a couple inches next to them that is a-okay for me to use. And lastly, I will say, I'm a huge proponent of self-enforcing infrastructure, because I had an incident where someone was parked in the bike lane. I called the police, and the police officer threatened to arrest me. So I believe that the best infrastructure is infrastructure that doesn't need enforcement from people. The infrastructure does the enforcement.
Awesome. So yeah, since we have pointed out some of the issues that really, you know, are kind of like that thorn in our side, we'd like to go ahead and talk about tools for safer streets, or what we want our streets to look like in our communities. And so I'm going to let Courtney go ahead and start this portion of the presentation.
So as you can see here, these are some concrete structures. The image on the left is from Portland. The image on the right is from Berkeley. I really like the ones from Berkeley because they're really colorful. There's some greenery in it. I think the ones in Portland, you could plant something in those and they eventually will have it. But what these do is ban car traffic, but allow cyclists to go through. And these are really great for reducing traffic volumes on residential streets. And I would love to see these become more common in the United States. Next slide, please. And just another image of some colorful diverters. The sign is even more explicit. It says, you know, you can't go through here, but bicycles can. Another traffic diverter, this one is less obvious, maybe less obtrusive. And I think this comes from Europe because I don't remember our road signs looking like that. But I thought it was really cool to capture something that's not as obvious and less obtrusive.
I think this is really unique to unique design because it's a one-way street. So, you know, a lot of times when the streets are wide open, you always have this random Joe or Jane going down the street in the wrong direction. This type of design really does not allow for that. You really have to pay attention to where you're going. But I like that it does allow the people that may live in this neighborhood or visit this neighborhood to still travel on bike, on their scooters, pushing their children in strollers, etc. So this is a really interesting slide. So thanks for that, Courtney. And so then I'll speak to this slide a bit because what you're seeing is a couple of different things. You're looking at a raised and a high visibility crosswalk. So it's raised a bit, kind of like a speed hump, which does make the driver have to slow down. Otherwise, if any of you have ever gone over a speed hump and not slowed down, and pretty much sounds like your car is about to fall apart. So that's always a good way to slow down traffic. But the high visibility crosswalks have the several lines, the white lines, which really just kind of gives more of a visual appeal to the drivers, so they can actually see the crosswalk, unlike the previous slide that I showed you with just the fainted 2 white lines that fade away after a while. People that are driving Lyft or Uber, sometimes people have to take their eyes off the road and look at a map to get where they're going, and you may actually miss the crosswalk. So this is a really good design here that we appreciate, especially if you look in the slide, there's a lady pushing her baby. She might have came from the other side of the street. So for the safety and lives of those of us that are using the street, this is a great visual. And so then this slide just is a design. This one is a design that we did over the district. So the same street that I showed you in my neighborhood, which is the picture up on the right, that same intersection, when we did our community visioning and our charrettes last year, this is the design that everybody came out to discuss as far as what they want to see in their neighborhood. They want to see these high visibility crosswalks. They want to see curb extensions. And if you can see like the curb extensions where these 2 pedestrians are coming across the street, because the curb extension is the yellow part that's behind them, and it begins again at the end of the white lines, which is the crosswalk, it actually shortens the length of the street for them to cross. So definitely more safe, but more vibrant. Like Courtney mentioned, they want to see color and art, and they want to see the community active. So instead of our street being used as a thoroughfare for cars to get from point A to point B, we'd like to see our communities become more community centered for the people to come out of their homes, venture out in their community to shop, walk, talk, chat, all of these things that you see the pedestrians are doing in the photo. And so this is just another close-up of the actual curb extension that I was explaining. This particular design is called rapid implementation. So this would be like phase 1. There is definitely a very high costs that are involved with completely reconstructing the street and redesigning it. So we have to think of things that we can implement now to start changing behaviors. And so this is one of them. So this neighborhood has installed high visibility crosswalks and temporary curb extensions. So these are also traffic diverters, but they're smaller plastic ones. They're of course more financially economical than the larger planters that Courtney showed that had the different colors. And this is actually something that we're actually getting, we've advocated enough that will be getting installed this summer in our district. So we're really, really, really proud of that. And then our community wanted to see that art. So we wanted to show how we can implement art instead of this slide where it's just kind of like a peach color. How can we make that and give it a sense of pride, a sense of community? And so these are just some designs where the community have been involved to just kind of make it their own. And so now we're to Courtney's portion. Courtney, take it away.
So chicanes, they're not very common in the United States, but I think of them as kind of like a way to add variety into the street, more so in terms of the driver perspective. I'm sure many of us have seen people on their phone or people just glancing down as they're driving. And if you are on the street with chicanes, it's really hard to do that. It forces drivers to pay attention and it forces drivers to slow down. So if you see here in the photo, the little signs that are orange and black, the thing that they're planted in is the actual chicane. You can kind of see how these little items narrow the roadway and add some variety. In some cities, you might see street furniture like benches or just really big planters. And on the next slide, you'll see an example of plastic chicanes, which can also be really effective. If you look sort of like in the middle of the photo where you see that yellow dividing line, you can see how the chicane kind of adds a little bit of variety to the roadway. It's not simply straight. You have to actually pay attention so that you don't run into these little plastic posts. They can be metal as well.
Right. This is great. I would say quickly, something to note is that, as I explained before, with the complete reconstruction of a street and then rapid implementation, the things that we can do now, she showed you this slide, which is constructed. This is concrete. This is a completely constructed project. But then this one is chicanes, more of a rapid implementation plan. So this is probably the more, again, fiscally, affordable way to get something going. Now, I have not seen these in Milwaukee, but they may be here. But I think this is interesting, and I would love to see where they are, if they are here, if not, to see the city pilot these in some of the neighborhoods, especially the side streets, because we do know that traffic likes to travel pretty fast on the main thoroughfares, but the side streets, having people speed on residential streets is a problem. So when we can't afford what Anastasia spoke of, as far as like roundabouts and things like that, as far as construction, what other kind of safety mechanisms could we actually afford right now? So this could potentially be an option. So we're here. Q&A for a moment. Are there any questions about any of the safety mechanisms that we have covered so far? I am not able to see the chat, Jessica, or
I don't see any questions about it in the chat. It looks like people are just really liking the concept of chicanes and raised crosswalks.
Awesome, great. So I just wanted to make sure everybody had a moment to ask any questions, or we'll keep it moving. All right. So
I guess there was just one question that came in.
Mhm.
What is the process for introducing chicanes? And I'm not sure. Go
So
ahead.
here in Chicago, something that we're working to reform, Better Street Chicago is working to reform. You have to, on your block, you have to go door to door with all your neighbors and get at least 85% of them. I don't know how they calculate 85%. I don't know if it's like, I don't know how they do it, but there's a lot of hurdles to jump through to get traffic calming. And we only have one chicane in the city of Chicago.
wow.
So along with advocating for a reform of the process, we want to reform sort of like the menu for traffic calming so that people have more options than just a speed hump or a traffic circle.
Yes.
And then
I mean, yeah.
it has to go through city council, which is unfortunate.
Right on point. Ours, I was going to say pretty much the same process. As far as, and so I'm going to speak from two different aspects. I'm going to speak from a residential aspect, and then from like the advocacy part of what I do in my position working with the city. So Courtney, you're on point. It was the same. I actually, in my neighborhood, my residential neighborhood, I successfully got a speed hump on our residential block, but we did have to do exactly what you said. We had to call the alderwoman, which our alderwoman is Malele Cox here in my residential neighborhood. She mailed one of my neighbors a sheet, a sign-in sheet, and that those neighbors called me because I engage a little bit more in the community than they do. And we had to go around and get signatures. And so I even enlisted some people to go to homes that I didn't want to go to, that they knew. But I mean, it definitely took a coordinated effort to get the signatures. And once we got the signatures, then we turned the form we sent it back to the alderwoman. From there, a speed study was ordered. And so then they put a speed, something in the street that cars ran over, and it for a period of time, maybe a couple months or so. And then that, whatever that
Data.
that data, they use the data to determine what the speeds look like and how fast they were going. It was determined that we need a speed hump. And so while we were excited about it, things kind of took a little bit of a turn because I'm one of the few actual homeowners on the block. So then we have a lot of renters. So we have a mixture. And so then we got the letter that, hey, the homeowners, you guys are gonna have to split this bill. And I was like, wow. So so that we were able to go ahead and we didn't no one contested it. So we went ahead and go ahead and let them go through their process, and then they installed it. So it's here. It definitely is slowing down the traffic, but it was some struggles in the beginning, a lot of loud booms and things like that, because the traffic hadn't been used to stopping and slowing down. So you'd hear the cars sound like they're falling apart. So that's what happened as far as the residential side. I'm just giving my personal experience to go with what you said, Courtney. But then on the advocacy side, I think that this would be a conversation for those community visioning sessions that we have when we bring out the residents, we bring out the community. Everybody isn't a higher level planner, so we usually give them image preference surveys. So we do what we're doing now in a sense, and we show photos of what is this, what it does, and then that empowers a resident to say, hey, yeah, I think we need that. And then we teach them the process of what they would have to do to advocate for their particular blocks. But yeah, I think it definitely takes a community visioning effort, not just say, hey, to one person, or one person is saying this. We definitely want to make sure that this is something that works for everybody. It's affordable, because it might be a good idea, but then what if you have a neighborhood that might be retirees that are on fixed incomes and they're not able to fit that extra bill? We may still be able to do it, but we may have to talk about, we have to align ourselves with a community agency or something who might be able to apply for funding or a grant or something like that will help us get that installed. So I wanted to add that. Were there any other questions?
No, I think that's good for now.
Okay. So then we just want to talk about what adequate pedestrian advocacy could result in. And this is Courtney. Take it away.
So what you see here is a secure storage locker for bikes. They are rolling them out in Paris. If you're not aware, Paris is doing a lot of great things to increase biking, and they also have a lot of bike theft because more people have bikes and they don't have the infrastructure to support it. So I would love to see something like this roll out in the US, even in my own neighborhood. One of these can store multiple bikes. It's not uncommon for me to ride around and see people locking their bikes to poles, street signs, things like that. And I think as more and more people buy expensive e-bikes, they're going to need a secure place to store it. And even if you don't have a super expensive bike, these would just be really nice to provide for people. Next slide, please.
Do you know, before we go to the next slide, do you have any idea what the cost would be on something like this?
It depends. I actually had someone reach out to me from a company in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, and they want to pilot some of these in different cities at no cost.
Wow.
I can try to find that message and give it to you if that's something that you want to bring to your community. But I think something like this would be on the higher end, but there are simpler structures.
Okay. Thank you for that. I would appreciate that. Definitely scoop that email right on over to me when you get the chance. Thank you.
This is a bike counter in Portland, Oregon. I think these can be really useful to show elected officials that, hey, lots of people are biking. This is how many bikes we had on the corridor this month, this quarter, this year. Data. It's always helpful.
Is this connected to something that's actually within the bike lane itself?
That I do not know, because it would be interesting to know how it differentiates between someone on a bike and someone in a car. It could be based on speed, maybe.
Okay. I'm interested in this because I have ever since you had inserted the slide, I had been looking at it. I probably should have did some research, so shame on me. But I was wondering, like, for example, like on Villard in my neighborhood, when I was showing you, like, we don't even have bike lanes. So like, I would go to bat for a pedestrian that got a ticket for like not jaywalking, but like riding on the sidewalk when you don't have infrastructure in the street. But that would be my question is, if people are not riding in the street, if this was measuring in the street, like in a bike lane, what if people are actually riding on the sidewalk? Yeah, then how would, just kind of the capturing of the data. So very interested in that. And I'll probably look a little bit more into that, but this was new for me too. So you guys, we're all learning together. So thank you.
Oh, someone in the chat said they differentiate based on the amount of metal that's passing over the sensor. So that's interesting.
Okay. And the sensor is in the street though, right?
I know a little bit about these. Milwaukee County has not the ones that count publicly, but similar ones. So there's often a sensor that is sensing just a shadow that goes by. And then if you want to differentiate pedestrians and bicycles, you do have like a loop detector that detects metal in the road that can separate the pedestrians and the bicyclists. When you add in cars as like a background thing, I'm not exactly sure, but basically it's a combination of different sensors for the different modes that then interpolate how much of each mode you have.
Cool.
Thank you, Jessica. That's cool information. All right.
This is an image from the Barcelona Superblocks, which I'm absolutely in love with. They have a grid street system. And so what they have done is designated certain grids or certain blocks as super blocks. And they're places where people of all ages can come out and get to know their neighbors. You kind of see here in the photos some picnic tables, there's trees, some sort of games written on the pavement, all the little colors you see there. I think it's great.
I do too. I think it's great, Courtney. Like, I grew up here in Milwaukee where we had block parties, and like we still have block parties, but they used to, this was where it wasn't as many rules and regulations as far as who and how to go about getting a block party. And this it was triggering because it's like, this is like an endless block party. I really like this. And I'm starting to see in Milwaukee where during the COVID, we were doing active streets for residents, but I don't think it was communicated in a way where people knew that they could go out in the streets and engage in the streets, because these communities, when they're used to, when you put up like, the orange barriers and things to block the street, they usually think that we're about to do construction. So, but there was never any construction. So people couldn't understand why is my street blocked off? But I think it was something along these lines that they would have probably liked to see the community engage in. So I think that there's, a correlation between, the active streets situation and the Barcelona super block. So this is new and this is amazing, and I really like this. So thank you for starting this. And then, okay, so then this, I wanted to show you guys. So when a few slides ago, when I showed you the high visibility crosswalks, all of the art, just the reconstructed intersection in our neighborhood, we had asked the community as well, like, how do you want to see these streets reconstructed? And so we had a few options that the architectural firm gave us based off of the feedback, and this is one of them. So I was explaining how our bike lanes are set up where they're painted lines next to the parking lane, so it puts the rider next to the traffic. Our community felt like our Villa Avenue, our street, wasn't safe enough to put the pedestrian next to our cyclists next to the traffic. So they wanted protected bike lanes. So that's what you're saying here is the sidewalk, and then the bike lane, which is protected, and then you have the parking lane and then traffic on both sides. So this was one option that they gave our community, and then they gave us it. So, and then in order to do this, of course, parking could only be on one side. So then another option that they gave us was to try to activate the street a little bit more. They kept the sidewalk 6 feet, but then they gave us a furnishing zone and a parklet. So the furnishing zone where we can put extra benches, probably bike racks and things like that, and then also a parklet. So it would require removal of one of the parking lanes, and that's a discussion that we have to have with the community. Ultimately, we have a few different options, but what will it be? In the end, the community, they're going to have to make a decision. So it's going to be a discussion between businesses that might be a business in our district who are saying, hey, the parklet, that's probably not a good fit. We probably actually need parking here, or we might have a business that actually dines and they might want to use the parklet to dine in the street. So I thought that these were some great options to share as far as the different ways that the street can actually be designed. So you probably would never know that the street that I showed you in that photo that didn't have any infrastructure could actually look like this. So I wanted to share that, and then just give a up closer picture of parklets and what they can do and what they can be in our community. So they don't have to necessarily be dining. They can look like this. And this is one that we're working with the bike fed here in Wisconsin to see if we can do something like either one of these. We don't have furnishings on the sidewalk. So could we put a parklet out and put a table where you can have lunch and a bench, park the bike for a minute, or on the left, all of the scooters. I think we probably got 1 million scooters dropped off in our city the last couple of weeks. Everybody's riding them. It's great to see people out enjoying the street, but where do you park them? They're sitting on the curb, they're laying in the street, they're laying in lawns. So we're definitely gonna have to figure out some type of better infrastructure for our scooter setup. And we thought that this was a great way to kind of just reimagine what our streets could look like. So there we go.
If you had to vote on your #1 top priority streetscaping element that we presented today, what would it be? A, raised/high visibility crosswalks. B, protected bike lanes. C, chicanes. D, curb extensions. E, parklets. So #1, I know a lot of them were really great, but what's your #1? I see F, all of the above.
Yeah, F is great. F is great too. And we didn't mention if you wanted a super block, put that in there. We didn't do an official poll, but we'd like to see you guys drop your answers in the chat just to kind of get an idea of like what's on your mind and what you guys want, in your neighborhood.
And I see in the comments, someone said like street dining is great, but then there's the hurdle of having to purchase food to socialize. I would hope that any sort of parklet situation would just kind of be an open for all. Even like if you patronize the businesses or not, there should be space for you to sit down and just socialize. Someone asked about a shared street here in Chicago, Argyle Street. That particular section of Argyle Street is maybe only 2 blocks long, and there isn't any signage to educate people on how the street is supposed to work. I do see people walking in the street, which is what it was designed to do. So kind of eliminating this separation of here's the sidewalk and here's the space for the cars, and you're not supposed to be in the space for the cars. But the way it functions in practice, I still feel like there's a lot of dominance from car drivers. Like people aren't empowered to walk in the street without fear. And I think that's mainly because it's only one street out of how many miles of street in Chicago. So I think we need more of them so that people know what to do. But if it's so novel, people are like, I'm just going to behave in the ways that I've always behaved because there's nothing to educate me on doing it any different.
Thank you for that. So did we get any other comments about what they liked?
A lot of people seem to say C, and that would be something more new for Milwaukee, so that's exciting. You did get a detailed question, Angelique, if you don't mind, but I'd just say maybe kind of a brief answer because I know you have a few more slides.
Okay.
And the question is, has data been presented to the businesses on Villard on how bike and ped changes, parklets, et cetera, could have an increased income financial benefit for them specifically, since often business owners are so worried if any parking is removed that they would lose money?
The only data that we have right now is speed data. So hot concrete speed data from working with, because Villard is split between Milwaukee Police Districts 4 and 7. So working with them to try to get just kind of get a grasp on what traffic is like. But from the community visioning, the community wants to engage more with the street. So we do have that data because they filled out surveys. They want the art, they want to engage with their street, they want the bike lanes, they want the curb extension. So we do have data from that as well, but we do not have any bike data. To be frankly honest, I would prefer for bikers to stay off of Villard for now until we get some better infrastructure, just be for safety reason. All right. So Courtney, you can jump us off here.
So what can an ordinary citizen do to create change? Organize, organize, organize. It's part of why I started Better Street Chicago. I'm one of those people that if I don't see the thing that I want, I'm like, okay, do I have the capacity to create it? Because I know I can create it, but do I have the capacity to do it? And one of the benefits of organizing is that you can bring other people in to kind of share the work. Your place of worship, if you're someone who attends a place of worship, if you attend a school, your workplace, your neighborhood, those can be sites of mobilization as well. People who normally wouldn't be super interested in pedestrian or bicycling safety on the surface, say parents, I think that's an untapped constituency. Whether parents are consciously aware or subconsciously aware that the state of our streets is not safe for their children. So they can be really great allies. There's also the really practical and less intensive option of calling or emailing your alderperson and letting them know, hey, I would really like to see some protected bike lanes, or I would like to see some curb cuts at this curb bump outs at this particular intersection. Read and watch the news for project updates. Some city departments of transportation have like newsletters where you can stay aware of upcoming projects or ways to be engaged, like taking a survey or something like that. Those are really important. You want to look out for funding opportunities to fund the particular infrastructure projects that you want to see. But the most important and the first thing is just organizing. You want to make sure that like as many people from your area, your constituency group are involved in making their voice heard. What I've learned is that my individual email isn't going to do much to sway my alderperson. It just isn't. But something she did tell me is that if you can get, 300, 500, 600, 700 other people to email my office about this particular thing, that lets me know that, okay, it's not just you. So unfortunately, the work is on us to show the elected officials that, hey, the people want this. There is power in numbers. And this is just a little chart of where to report issues and concerns. Angelique, did you want to discuss it?
Really, Jessica, our wonderful moderator, helped us pull this together because it's important because a lot of people don't really know where to report. So Jessica, did you want to kind of elaborate a little bit?
Sure. Just want to let people know that both the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County have a number of ways people can report issues, and it is really helpful for issues to get reported. Both entities have apps, which you can find for free in your local app store. We have a phone number that you can report to, or just a simple email. And I would say the phone is probably the least useful. It's just the hardest to get into a system for a human to respond to. But if it's an emergency, phone is great. But the apps, come with geolocation, and we can assign that to a staff person much more seamlessly. But I just want to let everyone know there are all these options. Maybe we'll find a way to, if there's any notes that come out of this summit, or maybe even, so we need somewhere to get this online. All this information is not in one place online, but hopefully we can do that, because having everyone report on issues really helps them get addressed, and then can in the future lead to these bigger projects being considered to solve some of the issues in a systematic way.
Does the Milwaukee app allow you to track your request or complaint or whatever it may be, like the status of it?
Yeah, I think for the county, we just have like 3 statuses. So it's not like you see exactly where it is, but it's like open, under consideration, and then closed or something kind of like that. I can't remember exactly the terms, but there are 3 things. You can also, in the county one, you can see other complaints in that area, because maybe someone's already complained about that issue, and then you can actually kind of like that complaint to help it, keep rising up in the queue. So local government is moving into the present, and we hope you can give us the information we need to make those tools useful.
The Milwaukee mobile app is simple. I actually use it a lot. I'm kind of like really anal about that, and I'm always trying to show other residents. They actually let you take a picture in real time of a pothole or some dumping or whatever the case may be. So you take a picture and you submit the complaint through the app, and it does track and show like it's open, it's been reviewed, it's closed, and then they send you an email too. So I like that. I really like that it gives you the directions too. So if you take a picture and you're standing somewhere, then it'll find the address for you. So that's super helpful. So yes, so now we've come to the end of the road, everybody.
And people can put questions in the chat or the Q&A. I haven't seen any pop up in the Q&A yet.
Okay. So yep, if you want to stay in touch with us, we just want to leave our information up for you. And we do want to ask if you had any other questions for us. We know that you all didn't get the 5-minute break after the last wonderful presentation. So we were hoping that we can make that up for you guys. So If you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. If not, then if you need our information, take it down. We'll leave it up until they close out. I do want to show the last slide because Courtney did this, and I'll go back to this one. So this was really cute. I like that, how she put together this last slide, all these different modes of transportation on wheels.
Angelique and Courtney, I just want to say thank you so much. You guys sound like engineers. You're highly educated in other fields, and you did such a good job bringing this knowledge and passion to this topic area. But I was wondering, we do have a few minutes for anyone who wants to stay on. Could you talk about like how you first came to this work and maybe what keeps you inspired? Because it takes a long time to change concrete, to really see community change. And we have to do these things day by day, minute by minute. So what brought you to it and what keeps you inspired, if you don't mind?
I feel like I was brought to it a mix of self-preservation, like literally I need these streets to change so that I can stop having these awful experiences. And also I see the potential of active and sustainable transportation to really transform our cities. I remember when I used to drive here in Chicago and I felt so isolated. Granted, it was my first year, but I think I could have had a different experience if I had been regularly taking public transportation. But at that time, I had a job that required that I drive around. And I've just noticed I've made a mental note in my head of all the little interactions or big interactions that I've had with people that wouldn't have happened if I was sitting in a car. And I think there's so much potential for people to get to know their neighbors and their neighborhoods a lot better when they're outside of a car. There's also the public health benefits and all these things. And what keeps me going is this phrase that I heard a while back. Streets are not static. So anytime I feel despair or just angry, frustrated, whatever it may be, I'm just like, what I'm seeing now, it can change. And I want to be someone who was part of that change. So streets are not static. Everything's always changing. There may be things going on behind the scenes that I don't know about that will positively impact my generation and future generations.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wish I was trying to self-preserve a little bit more. I probably would lean back a little bit, but I think mine is my drive is birthed out of equity. I have trauma from growing up, going to being bused out to affluent suburban neighborhoods that had better infrastructure, but just having to bus back home and see Milwaukee look a certain type of way, and then I just don't feel like there's any honor in making one neighborhood more affluent at the expense of making another one of your neighborhoods suffer. I would rather for all of us to creep forward little by little than to leave someone in the wayside while we rise up someone else or somewhere else. So I just don't feel like there's any honor in that. So for me, the just an equitable distribution of resources so that we all can enjoy the same amenities and the same things is what really drives me. And knowing that that the fight that we fight, the good fight that we fight today, hopefully is not the same fight that our children and nieces and nephews will have to fight, tomorrow. So that's for me. That's all I got.
And also, I just wanted to add, I recognize that I'm a person with privilege, and I see my bike advocacy as a way of kind of alleviating the burden for other people who don't have that privilege of spending 2 hours of their time on a meeting regarding a bike lane project. If I can be there for the people that can't, then that's great. I recognize that some people have bigger fights than a bike lane, and I totally get it. It's valid. And I also want to be there because I can, because I do have that privilege, and use it in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you all. Courtney and Angelique, you left us with beautiful inspiration at the end and great tools and tips throughout. Thank you. And thanks to the attendees, great comments and questions. And I hope everyone's
Thank you.
leaving inspired and connected. We can do this work together for all the reasons Angelique and Courtney laid out.
And thank you as well, Jessica, for being our wonderful moderator. And I want to give a shout out to Shannon over there getting down with the ASL. We appreciate you.
Yeah, and thanks to the Bike Fed for hosting.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Now we can step away for a little snack and maybe a little R&R.